So another thing we're going to have to think about when laying out UVs are having seams. You can't get around not having seams, so we have to think about where we're going to place them. We want to look for obvious places, such as maybe where two textures change. Um, it could be where we have a seam in the real world, or it could be in a spot where it's kind of hidden from our viewer most of the time. Seams you want to kind of hide or think about because you're gonna have to, at least for us using Photoshop, paint these seams out. And as we get to texturing, you'll see what I'm talking about with this. And then it comes down to how many seams is too many. Again, you're gonna have to kind of paint out a lot of these seams so you don't see them. So the less we have, the better off we are. But if we don't have enough seams, that can lead to stretching. So this dress is kind of a good example of it. So this is to make a sundress. So you have the top of the sundress and the bottom. You can see these pieces of cloth have different shape to them. But we're going to take these 2D patterns and we're going to stitch them together in a way that makes a 3D object. And when you see areas like this that are kind of cut open in a V, these are used to kind of taper the pattern as you go. So the top up here, which would be where our rib cage is, needs to be wider than where the waist is. So by using this, we can have that taper from top to bottom. So if we have, let's say, a spherical shape inside of 3D, we're probably going to have to cut some things similar to this to make sure that there's no stretching, because the circumference at like the middle of the sphere is going to be a lot wider than the circumference of it towards the top of the sphere or on either one of the poles. So I would say, just kind of researching UV layouts. I have a Pinterest board created here that you guys can check out, but there's tons of UV information on Pinterest. And you can kind of see where other people have cut seams and how they've kind of laid out their UV spaces. Here's one of a car. We're doing hard surface stuff this month. So you can see the side, the top of the car, and where they place stuff in the layout kind of makes sense. So when we're painting textures for this, we know exactly what we're painting. So how we organize this can mean something too. But if I was to scroll down through here, we can see just a bunch of different ways people lay out UV spaces. I like finding the ones where it has the texture or the model next to it because it helps me to visualize it better. But this looks like some pretty well kind of laid out UVs, although we can't really, at least for this, see what the model is. Let's click on it and go to the website and see if it shows it. Okay, so for this piece right here, we can see the model, we can see the ship, and then this is what the UVs actually look like that allow us to kind of map the texture to it. But the seams would be all these kind of cuts through here. And inside of 3D space, here's what I mean by we're going to have to kind of paint out these seams. If this is the way we're showing this piece in the final render, we're going to see this seam going straight down it, and that's where the UVs are split. So if I go into UV editor, and I right click, go to UV, and I select these UVs on the edge, you can see they're down here right on that seam. So in Photoshop, we're going to have to make the texture repeat from here to here in order for it to look good. It takes a little bit of work, but it's doable. What we probably could have done is hid the seam straight to the back here, because let's say this was going to be bracketed to a wall somewhere or on something, we would have then never seen this seam, right? So we can think about where to place the seams so they're hidden, and that's going to help us out by then speeding up the texturing process. So just a couple things to think about. You're going to have seams. We need to cut seams so we alleviate as much stretching as possible. When we have those seams, we want to try to hide them, and you should only have as many as you need. So sometimes trying to weld things back together once you're in the UV editing tools can be helpful as well. So just kind of think about some of these practices, and when we start putting this into our project, it'll hopefully start making a little more sense.